Hey, my name's Rajesh. I'm a direct lender based in Los Angeles, California, and I like looking at properties, analyzing them, and figuring out how to get the most profit from them, how to get the most return from them. So today we'll be looking at 4462 West 59th Street in Los Angeles. It's an 8-unit apartment building at $1.8 million. It's got a 5.60 cap rate, and here's an easy way to figure out how much a building makes in terms of net operating income. You multiply the purchase price by the cap rate, 5.60%, and that tells you the NOI, the net operating income. Let's say you knew what the, and here's the formula drawn out because I'm a visual person, and I figured some of my viewers, some of you might be too. So let's see what that looks like. So here's the purchase price is equal, or rather cap rate is equal to annual NOI over purchase price. So if we were to rearrange this, we would get purchase price times cap rate is equal to NOI, but we can also do this. Purchase price is equal to NOI over cap rate. So let's say you are driving past a building, you see that it's for sale, and or even better, you're driving past a building, you have an idea for it, and you want to know how much to offer in order to buy it. Well, if you look at their P&L and you know their NOI, and then you look at average cap rates for the area, if you take those two numbers, if you divide the NOI by the cap rate, you can come up with a pretty good offer that's going to be fairly on the money. And this goes specifically for commercial real estate, not so much for 1 to 4 units, but anything 5 units and above, whether that's multifamily, a medical office building, senior living, an ALF, whatever it is. ALF stands for assisted living facilities. So whatever it is, an office building, things of that nature, commercial real estate, if you go by that, you'll be able to come up with a good purchase price. But let's see, and another way to use this also is, let's say you want a certain cap rate. So if you're not only looking for cap rates at a certain, if you're just like saying, what's the certain cap rate of this area, what's the average cap rate of this area, you can come up with a purchase price for it. But now let's say you know the NOI, right? And you know that you want a 7.0 cap rate. So you just divide by the NOI by the cap rate, and you would get your purchase price. So this would be like your ideal offer. This would be generally what the seller's offering, and you'd probably end up somewhere in between here. So let's see what we can do for this building. So we're going for a 1.8 million purchase price, 179900, one more zero I believe, yep. And this is 8 units, okay. So 8 units, 0 vacancies. Well, I don't know how many vacancies does it have. Let's see how much vacancies does it have. Price per unit, 224,000. Average occupancy, 100%. Does it say anything about, it's a C-class building. Let's see, does it say anything, gross rent multiplier? So let's see here. Gross rent multiplier formula. Property price divided by gross annual rental income is equal to gross rent multiplier. So this is almost gross rent multiplier is equal to property price over gross rents annually. So if I want to know what my annual gross rates are, I would just swap these two around, right? So it would be gross rents is equal to purchase price over gross rent multiplier. Now I know that the purchase price is 1.799 million, 1.799 million, and the gross rent multiplier is, I believe, 11.1. So if I break out the calculator, which I've already got ready, I've got 179 divided by 11.1 is equal to, my gross rents are equal to, 162.72. So gross rents, and now I can also do this for my NOI. So if I go purchase price, which is 1.799 times 5.60%, which I believe this is, 5.60%. So I go 1.799,123 times 5.60%, that's 100,074. 100,744. So this is my NOI, and these are my gross rents. So let's do a little bit of math here, and I know that 162,072 gross rents, NOI, and this will tell me my operating expenses. So let's do a little bit of math here. 162,072 minus 100,744. That means I have operating expenses of 61,328. Operating expenses. This is important to know, because now I'm going to be able to figure out what sort of loan I can get, because if it meets certain standards, then I can go for a bank loan, whereas if it does not meet those standards, I can go for a DSCR loan. That way I can still get my hands on the property. But you may decide not to get your hands on this property if the financing isn't right, because your financing, your debt costs are deducted from this, this number right here, from the NOI. Minus debt is equal to cash flow. But to figure out the debt, we need to punch all these numbers in. So we're going for 162,072 divided by 12, so 13,506. So these are my qualified gross rents. You can see that there. Property taxes I'm placing at 1.25%, which is 1,799,123 times 1.25%, 22,487.5. So property taxes 22,487.5. And if I were to divide that by 12, that would give me the monthly cost. 22,487.5 that by 12 is equal to 1874 roughly, which is what we have here. Landlord insurance, because it's an 8-unit property in California, On commercial multifamilies, you're generally being charged at about $1,100 per unit on an annual basis. So let's see here. We want to see net operating income, right? We got to get this down to 100,744. So 100,000. All right, let me see here. Insurance is equal to 733, so that's 8,800. 733 times 8. What happened here? Oh, yeah, 733 times 12, not 8. That's 8796, so roughly 8,800. 8,800 a year divided by 12 is equal to 733 a month. So now we have to keep working backwards here because we got to figure out the other operating expenses. So we got to go 100,744 divided by 12, which is equal to 83.95. So we are paying 83.95, or where our net operating income is 83.95. And if we were to divide this by 12, that would give us our operating expenses. So let's see here, 61,328 divided by 12 is 5110. 5110 per month, OpEx. Okay, so we've got already about 2,300 here. So that means property management, maintenance, pest control, legal, advertising, water, gas, electric, trash. All that adds up to roughly $2,500 because we're at 5110. Let's just say 5111. Okay, and now we're going to deduct this from there. So 5111 minus 1874 minus 733. So we're left at 2,500 a month. So that means maintenance costs. Let's add all this up right here. I also want to do this. I also want to divide this by 12 so that it can give me pretty easily 100,744 divided by 12 is 83.95. 83.95 a month NOI. So that tells us how far we're off. We're off about $600. So if we were to just reduce this to 751, we'd get pretty close. 83.42. We're at 83.95. So we got to add what? 49 bucks in. So let's say this is 702. 83.91. Bam, our net operating income. So here's the question. It's how much cash do you have for the down payment? The less cash you have for the down payment, the higher your interest rate's going to be, because that determines your LTV. These are based on your maximum LTVs, or yeah, these are based on your maximum LTVs or minimum down payments in order to get financing. So with a 1.0 DSCR ratio, and what that means is on a DSCR loan, DSCR, which stands for debt service coverage ratio loan. What's going on here is we're looking at gross rents, not net rents, not before, after operating expenses, but just the gross rents, what you collect from the tenants every month, and we're dividing that by the PITI, or principal plus interest plus taxes plus insurance. So it doesn't even care about the other operating costs. It just cares about the taxes and insurance and the debt payments. So if your gross rents covers that, you get, if gross rents is equal to PITI, or this is 1.0x, so basically if the gross rents are equal to the PITI payments, you qualify, and we look at the minimum down payment necessary or maximum LTV or max leverage that we can issue. In this case, at 25% down, you're looking at slightly greater than a 1.0 DSCR ratio. And in a case like that, you can actually you would not be able to buy the interest rate down that much. You'd maybe get a 7.99. What you want to do is get to to 30% down, and now you're automatically at a 1.1. So this allows you to buy a much lower interest rate. So you can technically buy it down to a 5.99. You'd still have to put minimum 30% down, but now you're looking at $534,000 as your down payment, as opposed to the $617,000 down that you'd have to put down, or 34% down that you would have to put down with the bank loan. And with the bank loan, that's because they're calculating their DSCR ratio. As you can see here, it says gross DSCR ratio, and here it says net DSCR ratio. With the net DSCR ratio, let's see, bank, and I put quotes here because this is just an agency loan, but by agency it can be like an insurance company, it can be an MBS or a CMBS agency loan. And so the way these are calculated is they look at the net DSCR ratio. Sometimes they just call it the net DSR ratio. So that's what they look at right there. And so the way they do that is they look at net operating income over P&I, and that has to equal, in our case, 1.15x. But I know that generally speaking, they're looking for a 1.2 to 1.25x. So we can go down to 1.15. That for them, they're looking at 1.2, 1.25. And so they may advertise it, as 25% down minimum. And that's true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you have to put down, because as you can see in that calculator, if you want to hit a 1.2 DSCR ratio, you're going to have to put 34% down. With us, you'd be able to put down a 1.15, and now you're looking at a down payment of 31%. Your interest rate on this is going to be the 5-year CMT plus 2.25%, I believe. Let's see here, 5-year CMT today. So today we are looking at, let's see if this even shows it, this week, a month ago. So this says week. It should be here. There we go, 3.696. So we're going 3.696 plus 2.25. So you're looking at an interest rate of 5.946 or 5.95 as of December 28, 2025. So let's put that in there. 5.95. We're going to do that. And with this, you're going to be at minimum 30% down just to be able to buy the interest rate down. And when I say you're buying the interest rate down, what I mean is that the seller, let's say the property is $2 million and the interest rate buy down costs about $100,000. So you're saying, hey, I'm going to negotiate down the price from $2 million to $1.9 million. But on paper, it's still going to say $2 million. It's just that the seller gets $1.9 million in hand, but he's using that $100,000 credit. He's crediting that towards you so that you could apply it towards closing costs. So you may apply that to the origination fee, you might apply that to other closing costs, appraisals, etc. Or if you're smart, you'll buy down the interest rate, at least in my opinion, apply it towards the interest rate. So now you got an interest rate buy down, and you're financing the cost at $2 million. You're putting the down payment down on $2 million, but that extra $100,000 is just a buy down for the interest rate. So now you end up with a lower interest rate than you would otherwise. So in this case, with the agency loan, we're looking at a 1.15 ratio. So your difference in down payment is roughly $40,000. In terms of cash flow, what that amounts to is almost $200. Well, almost $300 a month, because your cash flow here is $1,100 a month. Your cash flow here is $800 a month. And we can go interest only with the DSCR loan, as well as on the agency loan, in which case you are now still doing about a difference of about $300, 200 something dollars. So let's see here, 2326 minus 2069, $257 roughly. So let's say you don't want that. Let's say you want fully amortizing, right? And you don't want to buy down interest rates. So now you're going to need a DSCR ratio of at least 1.2, and then you're going to have to again do at least 30% down. So but your interest rate is going to be closer to 6.875 in today's market. So you're still not quite at 1.2 with the 25% down payment, but we take it down to set at 30% down. And now you get that 1.2 DSCR ratio, you get the 6.875% interest rate without any buy down, and your down payment is $545,000, but your net cash flow is only $154 a month, and that's across all 8 units together. So what's the benefit of that? Why not just do an agency loan? Well, in the case of this building, you already have 100% vacancy. In order for it to qualify for an agency loan, generally speaking, it needs to be 100% occupied at closing. And with our agency loan or our bank loan, we're looking at 85% occupancy at application. So when you first apply with us, it would have to be at least 85% occupied. But if you at closing, we still require it, again on the agency loan, not the DSCR loan, is 100% occupied at closing. And that's generally the way it goes. So, but here's the issue, right? With 8 units, if you have 1 vacancy, that is equal to 87.5%, I believe. So let's see that. 1 divided by 8 is equal to 0.125, right? So this is occupancy. So that means 7 out of 8 units occupied, you're looking at 87.5%. So 7 divided by 8 is 87.5. So you would be able to apply for this, but before it closes, the building has to be fully occupied. With a DSCR loan, we go up to 2 units max, vacant. So we have 2 units vacant for our DSCR loan. So if this building had 2 units or 6 units rented and 2 units empty, DSCR loan is the way to go. And you're thinking, well, if it has 7 out of 8 units, why not just get an agency loan? Why not just get the seller to put in a new tenant? Well, do you want somebody else putting in a tenant for you? Are they going to get you the highest rates? Maybe you're going to remodel the unit when you take it over, so you don't want another tenant in there. Are they going to put it on a year lease? Are they going to put it on a month-to-month lease? If they put them on a year lease, now you're stuck with a possibly bad tenant, or worse, a good tenant that's paying the rent on time, but they're not paying top dollar for it. They're not paying what you want to get for that unit. So your plan was to remodel it and then rent it out at the market rate, but now you have a tenant in there who's paying the unmodeled market rate, and you're not able to get hit your income goals because of it. So that is a definite concern there. So that's why people choose to go with DSCR loans. And as I said, you can get a comparable interest rate with a comparable down payment. But again, when you're comparing these two options, you're looking at $545 for the down payment versus $626. So that's roughly $76,000, maybe $80,000. So let's see what that is. 626,052 minus 545,097, $81,000. So let's see what we can do with the bank loan, because we are in a position where this is 100% occupied and it makes no sense to do anything else. But the good news is that the minimum down payment here would be around 25%, just because of the 1.15 DSCR ratio requirement. So that means your down payment is actually going to be coming in at $575, and you're going to be cash flowing about $1,000 a month, or $12,000 a year. Well, $1,100 a month, or a little over $12,000 a year, $13,200, I believe. So we're looking at 1.799 million. Now here's the real challenge: to see whether this is worth it over the long term. Because hey, you know, it's going to cost $575,000 just to get this building. That's your initial cash investment. And what did we say was the down payment? It was 1.5, so 575, 680. And in terms of down payment, that's 68 LTV, so 32% down payment. Closing costs roughly 3.5%. We're going with 5.95% interest rate, and we said fully amortized. Zero rehab. Let me see if this building even needs rehab. I mean, a little bit, maybe. I don't really see any photos of the interior, so I don't know. We're just going to assume that it's not going to need any rehab, and we're just going to keep rates at market rates and just increase them according to the market. So we're at, what's the address here? 90043. And let's get this link here. And so property taxes 1.25, realtor commissions 3.0, property management we said 8%. Let's see here, loan amount, we don't need to worry about that because this is a rehab loan. We need to know economic conditions. So generally what I've been seeing on these websites is well, let's show you. I'm going to guess that it's going to be between 4 to 6% annual appreciation up to 2026. So if we were to select a different time period, like between 1992 and 2022, it might say something like 8%. So that just shows that there is some fluctuation and that you can selectively bias. I'm just going to stick to the past 30 years and go up until 2026 because today is December 28, 2025. So let's see here, average property appreciation rates per year over past 30 years, 1996 to 2026, and 90043. And let's see what Google says as well regarding this. Okay, this is 7 to 8%, and this is from 1996 to 2026. I know when I did the video yesterday for the other excuse me, for the other property in 90002, I believe, they said between 4 to 5%. They're saying 7 to 8% here, so there's a decent area. Let's say 7.5. And let's see rental inflation. Rental inflation. And they're saying between so they're saying between 4 to 5%. So let's put in 4.5% here per year. After repair value would be 1799 because we're not adding anything there. And this has 8 units. We need to know the gross rent per unit, so it's a good thing we save these numbers here. So we need the 162,072. 2072 divided by 12 divided by 8. That's a 1688 per month. So we're not raising the rents the first year, and we're just going to keep up with the market, which is 4.5% per year for each following year. And that means in 30 years from now, when you're paying rent, you're paying $6,000 a month. 10 years from now, your rent's gone up just with the market at $2,500 a month. That's $900 more per month that you're paying. 900 times 12 is, wait, what happened there? 900 times 12, yeah, $10,000 more per year. So when people say that it's cheaper to rent than it is to buy, maybe, but you're building equity when you buy, and when you sell the property, you recoup all of that. When you rent, you're just giving it away. So let's see what we're doing here in terms of hazard insurance. So what did we say over here? It was 8,800 because it's 12 units. Property taxes are what they are. Let's punch in these numbers here. For my operating expenses, we said 1874 times 12, 2248. Yep. So let's see what legal is. We're saying 120. Gas was 20. Water was 65. And honestly, you can move these numbers around. They don't really matter. What matters is the net or the operating expenses as a total. And so we have to get the operating expenses totaling $51.11 per month. So you can move these numbers around. They don't really matter. What I'm doing here is just punching it in as I have it here. Electric is $80 a month. Lawn and snow, for example, we don't have a lawn and snow thing here, but I'm guessing that would just go under maintenance, right? Property maintenance. So HOA trash removal, that's $250. Pest control, I put $180. Advertising, I put it at $10. So maintenance here shows up at $13.50 a month, and here it shows up at 702. So let's see here, let's say I put 5% here, so that's 675.20, right? So 675.20 minus 702 minus 675.20, 26.8. So that's what I'm going to put for lawn and snow, 26.8. Again, it doesn't really matter what these numbers are. The important thing is that these two numbers add up to 702, as you can see on the bottom right corner here. So in terms of net operating income, we're at 101,992 for the first year, second year 106, and you can see it all the way through the 30th year. My property tax calculations are wrong when you start looking at the 10th year and beyond, because property taxes in LA are capped to a max increase of 2% per year of the assessed value. They are capped to the assessed value cannot increase at more than 2% per year, and then the property taxes as a tax rate cannot exceed 1% per year plus all the local county taxes. So I use 1.1 or I use 1.25%, but I also do lending in other states. So for that reason, these numbers are just more as a general U.S. guesstimate of property taxes. But for LA, you would not be paying $183,000 in property taxes in your 30th year. It would probably be closer to maybe less than 50K if I had to guess. So that might throw some of the net operating income figures off. But the important thing is, like, even if it's making money in that dire situation, then you know it's a good deal, because that's the worst case scenario and you're going to make more money than that. And you don't know if the incredibly knowledgeable and wise voters of California are going to change that law through a constitutional or state constitutional amendment. So I again like to prepare for the worst case scenario, and if it still makes money in that sense, if I end up with a better case scenario, that just means I'm making more money. In terms of cash flow, your first year you're looking at, well, let's go back here, your debt service, right, for your first year is going to be $72.95 per month, or $87,000 per year, $87,500 per year. So that means if you got net operating income of $100,000, you're going to be netting cash flow wise about $13,000, and from there you're able to deduct your mortgage interest write-off, you're able to deduct your building depreciation and show negative income that you can write off from this building. But in terms of cash flow, lifetime value of the cash flow that you're getting is $2.4 million, $2.418 million. In terms of exit, you'd have to wait till your 5th year to sell the building to walk away with the profit here, because as you can see, because of all the money that you put into it along with realtor commissions, when you sell the building, in your first year you'd actually walk away with the loss of $228,000. Your second year you're walking away with the loss of $165,000. Your 5th year you actually walk away with a profit of $95,000. Hardly seems worth it, but when you go back to your 30th year, you're walking away with a profit of and I mean profit after you add up your equity appreciation, after you add in your cash flow and net cash flow, and then deduct the realtor commissions, you walk away with $13.3 million. So that means if you just took all the cash flow that you got and you put it in a separate account and then waited 30 years with zero interest being added to it, and then you sold the building after 30 years based on natural appreciation, you're walking away with $13.3 million. Now, is that a good return? That's where we look at the cash on cash return. So the way to do this is, one, you're going to be looking at your initial equity injection, which is $575,000. And in terms of cash flow, you're getting about your first year 14.4, second 14,450 rather. Second year you're getting 18,820. Fifth year you're doing 32,000, 33,000 in cash flow. By your 30th year you're doing about 214,000. So that's almost 50% of your initial cash injection. But let's see what it is like on the first year. So we go 14,450 94 divided by the 575 that you initially put in, which is 575,680, 575,680, and that is, and then you multiply that by 100. So that's a 2.5% return on your initial cash. But you know, I think that's a bad way to look at it. Not because the numbers are unfavorable, but I'm a long-term investor. I want to maximize cash flow, absolutely. But I also want to know, like, what's the least amount of work for me to get the most amount of money. And in this case, and I'm not saying this is a good deal, I'm doing this live as we speak, or live for me, rather. We're looking at a cash-on-cash return of 1964.64, so 1900%, or 20xing your money in 30 years. So that means what we're doing is we're taking the 13,311,206.86 and dividing it by the initial $575,000 you put in, which was 575,680, 575,680, and that's 23x return on your money. That's not bad, considering that you're just taking the money, you're putting it there, and every dollar that you get into the building, you're just letting it sit and ride into it, right? Because the dollar cost averaging is paid for by the building. So let's see what we get here, right? So compound interest calculator. This is the investor.gov website. Initial investment was 575,680, and let's say you don't want to put anything from your pocket beyond that 575,680 in order to keep it an apples to apples comparison, because with the building you're just putting in 575 and then the mortgage payment is paid for by itself through the cash through the rents being collected. So that would be the equivalent of putting nothing in to the building from your own pocket ever again. So you bought shares in the S&P 500, you're looking at, let's say, an average 8% per year, zero interest rate variation. Actually, let me see what you would be getting here. Average S&P 500 return last 30 years. So that doesn't return anything, so we got to go to the all-knowing Google, which has some AI built in there, and let's see what they say. So 10 to 10.5. So this is from 1995 to 2024. So we're going to go 1996 to 2026. So this has been between 10 to 12%. So we're going to select the middle, which is 11%. So I mean, like, obviously it's going to do better, I think, just because of and you get roughly the same, 13 million. Now you don't have to deal with tenants, you don't have to deal with maintenance issues, you don't have to deal with late night calls. Not a bad deal, actually. You get $200,000 less, but you know, less headache. Now let's see what happens if you were to put that same monthly payment into it out of pocket, right? So that's $72.95 in debt payments. So that's your monthly contribution here. So let's see, I'm guessing it's probably going to be like 50 to 60 million. No, 30 million. So yeah, you might just be better putting your money in the stock market at this point, because if you just put that 575 in the stock market and never made another monthly contribution, as you would not have to in the case of this building, because the rents are your monthly contribution, you get you get this. The issue with this is, how do you access this equity without without getting taxed? Because the 13 million here, you would have to sell in order to access it, whereas with this, you can just borrow against the building, right? And so the net equity is 11.33. You'd be able to get up to 70% equity, so you'd be able to do a refi, a cash out refi at 11,332,449.22 times 0.70, and by that time you're fully paid off the building, so you'd be able to pull out roughly $7.9 million tax free. Whereas on this, you could probably do like a personal line of credit. So you just take your stock account, move it to a Chase Bank, move it to a Wells Fargo, a US Bank, or a Citibank, and say, hey, give me an unsecured loan against this, and they'd be more than happy to do it. Now, how big that line's going to be, I'm guessing it'll probably be, last time I spoke to them, I believe they said 97%. So yeah, I mean, as much as I like real estate, it seems like the way to go here would be the stock market as opposed to this building. Now, that's if you leave the rents here, right? And you never make another monthly contribution. So now we're comparing 13.17 million, 1.8 million, or 13.18 million versus 13.3 million staying at whatever the lease is. So let's say you kick out all the tenants and you just increase it to $1,800 a month. You remodel it rather, and you go, okay, let's go $2,000 a month, right? And when you remodel it, you're increasing the building's value. And let's say you put in, there are 8 units, you put in maybe $200,000. So now you're going from a 1.8 to a $2 million valuation. And you put that in as cash. So you're going zero loan amount. So you just paid that cash. And you can get financing for that $200,000, but let's just say you pay it cash. Because if you have $500-some thousand to buy this building, $575,000, good chances that you have the money to rehab it. So now your net operating income after 30 years is $7.38 million cumulative. Your net cash flow is $4 million. You have your net income is $858, and now you've taken it with just an additional $200,000 to a $16.5 million. So let's say you take that same $200,000 and you put it in here. Let's see what that looks like, right? Calculate. 17.75, and this is 16.5. So again, you're still doing better with the stock market, with the S&P 500. This building does not seem, your cash on cash return is higher, by the way. It's 24.33 right here. One way to change this is to actually just, on this calculator, would be to add an additional $200,000 to the down payment. So let's see here. I want to go 775,680 divided by 17799, 123. So that's 43.11, 43.12. Let's say that. So now we got that 775 equity injection in the form of $200,000 going towards rehab, and now you're walking away with 17 million at the end of 30 years. Whereas here you're still walking away with $750,000 more, almost $1 million more, $750,000 more, just by not doing real estate. So this building is a tough sell. Now, one thing you can do is, here's the opportunity, I think, is that the price per unit is $224,000, $225,000 per unit. So one thing that you can do here is, do the rehab, $200,000, let's say even $300,000, right? So we're going to do the additional $300,000 here. So we're going to go 875,728.80 divided by 1799123. So that's 48.67, 48.68 after we do the rounding. And so projected after repair value, and let's say you sell each unit for $500,000 then as a condo. So you're basically going to turn these into condo units and sell them. Let's say 224,875. And let's say you just double it. So 450,000 times 8 is 3.6 million. So here is 3.6 million. So at this point, this calculator stops being useful because this is not going to be what gets you this. This calculator is designed to see what your exit is after 30 years. It is not designed to do the condomizing of a building. So let's see what happens here in 2 years, right? Let's say it takes you 2 years. Calculate. So that's $955,000. So we want to go to ChatGPT and how much to turn 8-unit building in 90043 to condos. Give me costs for legal process, financial, and time costs for legal process, as well as tenant move out. Best, mid, and worst case scenarios. So we're going to put together a cost here. So right now we're saying that you're putting $300K cash towards to rehab. We're saying 575. I believe it was that, right? So let's see here. This was, according to this, 575,680 for rehab. Down payment at 32% down. Then we got debt service, right? So let's see our annual debt service at 32. So we're paying interest only on, and interest payments. We're going to go interest only here. So our interest payments are $6,065 a month, 6,065 per month times 12. Well, let's say 14, right? Or however long ChatGPT says is going to take us. So 8 units, the conversion cost is almost $12,000. In terms of time, I want to know time. 6 to 12 months, 12 to 24 months for worst case scenario. So let's see here. Let's say times 36 months. Okay, let's say this takes 36 months. So 6065 times 36 is equal to an additional 218,340. Total. And then we're also looking at roughly worst case scenario, worst case tenant move out budget. So we're looking at 225,000 right there, plus 225 tenant move out. And then we're also adding, so let's see here. $12,000 per unit, tenant relocation. So let's see total costs here. So we're looking at between 520 and 825. So let's say 825 total costs here. Okay. 825 total cost. So this is your cost right here. This plus this plus this, right? So you're looking at roughly $1.6 million. So 300K plus 575, 680 plus 825,000. So now you're looking at 1.7 million. So this is actually a good thing. 1.7, let's make that a comma, 680. So this is your all-in cost right here, including some holding costs. I believe, did I add in the holding costs there? No, I need to add this one right here, which is the 218 plus 218,340. So you're looking at 1.9 million. Plus 218,340 holding. So now we're at 19,020 total. And so now we have to figure out the sales price, right? And so we said for the sales price, we were looking at $450 per unit. So if we go $450 per unit, we'll probably have to round up to 450,000 times 8 is equal to 3.6 million. 3.6 million. And we're also going to deduct the seller's agent fees of 3%. So 360 times 0.97 is equal to sales price, or 450K times 8. And so then we're going 3.490, I believe. 2. So this is the profit, not profit, after seller's agent commissions. And now we deduct the 1.191 price right here, 020 minus 1919,020. So we're looking at 1.572,980. And again, this is worst case scenario where you're selling each unit for 450K. If we look up, for example, average condo prices and 90043, and they'll probably show, let's just say Zillow. So this is average home value. I want to know condos, right? So let's see buy, and then I go here and I deselect all, and I only do condos, and then I go 90043, and I get rid of these price controls, so it doesn't look like condos are being, oh, condo for sale, 4-bed 3-bath 1.2 million, 2-bed 2-bath 675. Here you have a 1-bed 1-bath for 320, 2-bed 2-bath for 600, almost 595. You got 550, you got 425 here. This is Inglewood though, not 90043. So let's see here, we go for sale, 0, beds and baths, any, home type, condos. So we go out a little bit and we say remove boundary. So we can see here 700, 675, 750, 425 right by the park right here. And this is if you don't do the rehab, right? So this is what this unit looks like without the rehab. So if you make your place look better than this post rehab and then try to sell it, you're likely going to be getting a lot more money. And this is again 425. What about this one? This is 9008, and it seems to have security bars on the windows. So this is probably not a condo that you're going to be selling, but it does look nice inside. It looks contemporary, but you can see you got the safety bars on the window, so that's probably not the neighborhood that you're in right here, right? But you can see these ones going for easily over $500,000, and in my scenario I sold it for $450. So let's see what happens when you sell it for let's say even $500,000. So that's all going to be gravy on top of this, right? Minus the 3% seller commission. So we've got 50,000 times 0.97, which is after the seller's commission, and then we multiply that by 8. We're adding an additional 388,000 here, plus 388,000 on average. So we're getting 8, 9, this is 0, 1, that would be 16, 1, 9, 1. So you're walking away with 1.96 million profit. And again, these are super conservative numbers here. And this is after 2 to 4 years, whereas with the compound interest calculator, right, you've invested, let's say 575, well, let's say the same amount of money, right? So we want to do an apples to apples comparison. So we're looking at right here, you've invested $1.9 million. So let's see here. Oops. Cash 1919 020, and you've not made any monthly contributions since then. It's, let's say 2 years. Let's see what that looks like. You're walking away with $2.3 million. That's telling you what the value of your portfolio will be. So it's going up from 1.919 to 2.3. That's not the profit that you're making. And this tells you that your value will be 2.9 million. So here you are walking away with an additional $1.9 million in profit or 1.5 million. So you're walking away with something worth 3.6 million to let's see here, we wanted to go with the additional, so 50,000, right, 500,000 times 8, $4 million. So you're walking away with a portfolio, a piece, an asset worth anywhere between 3.6 million to 4 million. Whereas over here, you're walking away with an asset that's worth between 2.9 million in 4 years and 2.3 million in 2 years. So yeah, this is how you make more money out of this property. This is how you maximize this particular property. This is the stuff that I enjoy looking at, that just sort of strategizing here. So is this worth it? Here you just put the money, you let it sit, you let it ride, you know, you're done. Here you got to put in a little bit of ingenuity. You got to pay lawyers. You got to pay the tenants to move out. You got to get the permission from the city to turn it into condos and update the zoning and the subdivisions and all that. Then you have to set up an HOA. Now, the real money, I think, is turning this into a condos and then owning the HOA, because or the building administration. So that even though the group is self-managing it, they're still paying you the monthly fee to do the actual maintenance on the building and everything that goes with running the HOA on this building, the condominium fund, a maintenance fund. So this is how you get more money out of this building, and you're still collecting rent in the form of your HOA fee. So yeah, this is how you make more money in less time. This is better than doing the stock market for this particular building. With another building, I might come to a different conclusion, just because you know, the numbers make more sense to keep it long term. I'm looking at, is it just better to put it passively in the S&P 500? Is it better to just buy treasury bonds with it, the 10-year treasury? Or is it better to actually be active and be more hands-on? And in this particular case, in my opinion, I think it's better to be more hands-on. Yeah, anyway, I hope you guys got something out of that. And if you have suggestions for other buildings, leave them in the comments, and I'll be happy to do a rough analysis on them as well. Thank you.